The Undiagnosed Disease Network is a NIH grant, of which Harvard is the coordinating center. There are 7 different institutions as part of this that all have to share information. The institutions are universities and hospitals. And there are 2 sequencing cores as well as the zebrafish creation core. And what they do is all have to share information. They all have to sign into this website that Harvard created to share clinical and research information. It's not a technology challenge to solve. It was a how do we agree between all these different institutions that all have their own egos and all have their own big players. How do we all agree on how we're going to share that information? And getting identity management out of the way was shockingly a really big deal to a lot of people. But just being able to agree upon how we're going to share data among these institutions was a big deal, not only for these different institutions, but for the federal government as well. And ever since this project started, we've become like the NIH's poster child for how to share data among disparate institutions. So we have what we call off-the-street users, which is anyone in the United States and now anyone internationally who has an undiagnosed disease and they have a lot of missing information about it and they want to know, do I have something and can I get tested and can I find out more? So we allow people to come into the system from anywhere and they can authenticate in a variety of different ways. And then those people fill out applications and send it into our system. From there, clinicians, which is another role, which are people who are of these different institutions, are able to log in with their institutional credentials and look at these applications and decide should this person be admitted to the Undiagnosed Disease Network. And then of clinicians, we have all different sorts of types. We have regular clinicians, we have administrative personnel, we have genomic sequencing personnel, and they all have different rights and different accesses to different kinds of information in the system. We are FSMA moderate. We are technically not HIPAA, the UDN specifically. The Harvard Medical School, and specifically the Department of Biomedical Informatics, of which the UDN is under, they have a ton of different projects that use HIPAA, and we have some that we'd like to use Auth0 for dealing with HIPAA. Although FSMA moderate is far more stringent than HIPAA, so for FSMA moderate, we would be fine for HIPAA. And I'm a big proponent of if someone's an expert in something, you should have them do that and not you know. Identity management isn't hard, but if you get it wrong, everything falls apart in a horrible, horrible fashion, and you get put on the front page of the news that you've exposed X number of people to X number of things, and I just didn't want to rely on that. We were able to make a decision about authentication very early in the process by finding Auth0. It was the ease of use developmentally and in the documentation that sold us on it. Having an open GitHub that showed all the different plugins they had and seeing all the different ways in which they interacted at the development level and all the different kinds of documentation was what really sold me on the product. And then an hour it took me to write code that demonstrated that this thing was going to work the way I wanted it to. That was a big seller, knowing that that kind of productivity was able to happen. I didn't have to write dramatically difficult things for every single IDP that we're going to integrate with. It was just one thing, written once, very simple, and that was it to make the whole thing secure for authentication, and that's what sold me. One of the things that our users really like is that when they log in with their hospital or their university identity, it automatically pushes them there. There's no pull-down box, there's no anything. Your system knows what email address to send them to which IDP automatically. What's nice about Auth0 is that people who really care about credentials, such as government entities in our case, in hospitals, they get to manage the credentials the way they want to manage it with their compliance, with their audit system, with their everything, and we never have to be part of that system. If an employee is terminated at the hospital, they're terminated within our system automatically. And that saves us time and headache when it comes to compliance. We have a FSMA moderate requirement, and that requires multi-factor authentication for anyone accessing federal data. So any of the clinicians that access any of the shared federal data, they need to have multi-factor authentication. So we utilize the Google Authenticator methodology to do so via Auth0. Modern medical systems have come a long way, but most of them, in terms of electronic medical records, are still very much walled. They're meant to keep people out. They're meant to keep data in the system so that it doesn't go out into an email or whatever. It's not meant to be shared with other parties, and there's a lot of barriers in the way. And they're there on purpose. They're there because protecting the data under things like HIPAA is paramount, and not letting it go is paramount. Unfortunately, that also means that you can't share it. So by providing a system that enables people to share this data, breakthroughs can happen. So being able to share this data, share it to the very right people in an auditable, understandable fashion is paramount to not only treating and diagnosing these diseases, but is paramount to saving money as a taxpayer.